What if I told you that a penny so common that millions of Americans have handled it could actually be worth hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars? It sounds impossible. After all, a penny is just 1 cent, right? But hidden among jars of spare change, old piggy banks, and forgotten coin collections is a coin that continues to surprise collectors decades after it was made. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1985 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that may look ordinary at first glance but has become one of the most searched and discussed pennies among collectors. The 1985 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is one of those coins that proves appearances can be deceiving. Every year, billions of pennies are produced, and most end up being spent, saved, or forgotten. Yet some examples stand out because of their condition, rarity, or unusual mistakes made during production. That's exactly why collectors continue hunting for this coin nearly 40 years after it first entered circulation. To understand why people care so much about a 1985 penny, we need to travel back to the mid-1980s. The United States was experiencing a period of economic growth. Personal computers were beginning to enter homes, popular culture was changing rapidly, and Americans used cash for nearly every daily transaction. Pennies were still an important part of everyday commerce, and the United States Mint was producing them by the billions. The Lincoln cent itself already had a long history by 1985. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first circulating American coin to feature a real historical figure. Before Lincoln appeared on the cent, American coins generally displayed symbolic images instead of actual people. The design used in 1985 featured the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front. This portrait was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and had been used for decades. On the reverse side was the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Together, these designs became some of the most recognizable images in American coinage. Now let's talk about the missing mint mark. Many people hear the phrase "no mint mark" and immediately assume something is wrong with the coin. In reality, for a 1985 Lincoln penny, having no mint mark is completely normal. During that year, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint were produced without a mint mark. Pennies made in Denver carried a D mint mark, while coins from Philadelphia simply showed no mint mark at all. That means millions of 1985 pennies without a mint mark were produced. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint struck well over 5 billion Lincoln cents that year. So if they're so common, why are collectors paying attention to them? The answer lies in condition, rarity within grades, and the possibility of valuable mint errors. Let's start with the coin's composition. The 1985 penny was made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition had been introduced a few years earlier because rising copper prices made the older bronze pennies too expensive to produce. As a result, a typical 1985 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. This change in metal composition created an interesting situation. Because the copper layer is extremely thin, many circulated examples develop discoloration, scratches, spots, or bubbling over time. Finding a perfectly preserved 1985 penny becomes much harder than people might expect. Most examples found in circulation today are worth only face value or a few cents. But when collectors discover a coin with blazing original color, flawless surfaces, and sharp details, the value can rise dramatically. Professional grading services evaluate coins using a numerical scale. As the grade increases, the number of surviving examples decreases. A penny that looks ordinary to the average person may actually be extremely rare in top condition. For example, a worn 1985 no mint mark penny might be worth 1 cent. A bright, uncirculated example could be worth a few dollars. But a coin graded at the very highest levels by professional grading companies can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars because so few survive in that condition. Then we come to the category that excites collectors the most: mint errors. Mint errors occur when something unusual happens during the production process. These mistakes can transform an ordinary coin into a highly desirable collectible. One of the most famous errors associated with 1985 Lincoln cents is the double die variety. On these coins, parts of the design appear doubled because of a mistake during die creation. Letters, numbers, or design elements may show noticeable duplication under magnification. Collectors carefully examine the date, inscriptions, and Lincoln's portrait looking for signs of doubling. Genuine double die coins can command significant premiums depending on the strength and visibility of the doubling. Another sought-after error is an off-center strike. During production, if a coin blank is not positioned correctly, part of the design may be missing while the remaining portion is shifted toward one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more attention it usually receives from collectors. There are also die cracks, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and other unusual production mistakes that occasionally appear on 1985 pennies. These errors are far scarcer than normal coins and often attract competitive bidding when offered for sale. Over the years, several impressive examples have appeared in auctions and collector marketplaces. While ordinary circulated coins remain inexpensive, exceptional pieces have achieved much stronger prices. High-grade certified examples have sold for hundreds of dollars, and some top population pieces have crossed into the thousands. Certain dramatic error coins have also brought substantial premiums because collectors understand how difficult they are to find. Whenever stories emerge about valuable pennies selling for large amounts, excitement spreads quickly. People rush to check old jars, dresser drawers, and inherited collections. Most won't find a fortune, but every once in a while someone discovers a coin worth far more than expected. That's one reason coin collecting remains so popular. The possibility of finding something special keeps the hunt alive. Of course, with valuable coins comes the risk of misinformation and counterfeit alterations. So how can you identify a genuine 1985 no-mint mark Lincoln penny? The first step is understanding that no mint mark is normal for Philadelphia coins from that year. If someone tries to convince you that every 1985 penny without a mint mark is rare, that's simply not true. Next, examine the date carefully. The numbers should have the correct shape and appearance. Altered dates occasionally appear in the marketplace, and some individuals attempt to modify common coins to imitate more valuable varieties. Check the coin's weight if you suspect something unusual. A standard 1985 Lincoln cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Significant deviations may indicate damage, alteration, or a wrong planchet error that requires professional evaluation. Use magnification to inspect the lettering and design details. Genuine double dies display specific characteristics that remain consistent across known examples. Random damage or machine doubling can sometimes fool beginners, so comparing your coin with verified examples is important. If you believe you've found a valuable variety or error, consider having the coin authenticated by a reputable grading service. Professional certification provides confidence for both collectors and potential buyers. One surprising fact about the 1985 penny is how many still exist in circulation. Unlike older 19th century coins that disappeared long ago, 1985 pennies continue to show up in pocket change. That means anyone can participate in the hunt. Another fun detail is that many people overlook Lincoln cents entirely. Pennies often end up tossed into jars and forgotten for years. Yet some of the most valuable discoveries in coin collecting have come from searching ordinary rolls of pennies obtained from banks. Collectors have spent decades examining millions of Lincoln cents because they know remarkable finds can appear at any moment. It's a hobby that combines history, treasure hunting, and detective work all in one. The Lincoln cent series also holds a special place in American culture. Generations of Americans have carried these coins. Grandparents, parents, and children have all used the same basic design. When someone discovers a collectible Lincoln cent, they're not just finding a coin. They're uncovering a small piece of American history. So why do collectors continue to love the 1985 no-mint mark penny today? Part of the appeal comes from accessibility. Unlike rare gold coins that can cost thousands of dollars, Lincoln cents allow almost anyone to participate. A collector can begin searching with nothing more than pocket change and a magnifying glass. Another reason is the challenge. Finding a truly exceptional example isn't easy. Collectors enjoy searching through rolls, studying varieties, and learning the subtle differences that separate common coins from valuable ones. there's also the excitement of possibility. Every penny has a story. Some spent decades moving from person to person. Others sat untouched in collections. A few left the mint with unusual errors that transformed them into prized collectibles. The 1985 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny reminds us that value isn't always obvious. Sometimes the most ordinary-looking objects hide the most interesting stories. What appears to be a simple 1-cent coin may represent history, craftsmanship, rarity, and opportunity all at the same time. The next time you receive change from a store, take a closer look before dropping those pennies into a jar. One of them might be a 1985 Lincoln cent waiting to reveal a hidden detail. Maybe it's an exceptional uncirculated example. Maybe it's an unusual error. Or maybe it's simply a reminder that treasures can still be found in everyday places. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. The hunt never truly ends. There is always another coin to examine, another mystery to solve, and another discovery waiting just around the corner. So before you spend your next penny, ask yourself one question. Could that small copper-colored coin be worth far more than 1 cent? The answer might be sitting in your pocket right now. I want you to imagine this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, pull out a handful of loose change, and spot an ordinary-looking penny dated 1987. Most people would toss it into a jar without a second thought. But what if that tiny copper-colored coin was worth far more than 1 cent? What if a penny that millions of Americans have handled could actually hide a fascinating story, surprising collector demand, and in some cases, a value hundreds or even thousands of times greater than its face value? Today, we're taking a close look at the 1987 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that many people overlook but collectors continue to search for. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes this penny special, how to identify valuable examples, and why some collectors are willing to pay serious money for the right coin. The 1987 Lincoln penny was produced during an interesting period in American coinage. By the late 1980s, the United States economy was changing rapidly. Personal computers were becoming more common, new technologies were emerging, and everyday transactions still relied heavily on cash. Pennies circulated constantly through stores, banks, and vending machines across the country. The Lincoln cent itself had already become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. First introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin marked a major milestone. It was the first regular circulating United States coin to feature a real historical person rather than a symbolic image. By 1987, Lincoln had already appeared on the penny for nearly 8 decades. Millions of Americans carried the coin every day without realizing they were holding a small piece of history. Now let's talk about that phrase collectors often use, no mint mark. When a 1987 penny has no mint mark, it means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For many years, Philadelphia coins were produced without a mint mark, while other facilities used identifying letters. Denver coins carried a D mint mark, and San Francisco proof coins carried an S. Because of this, a 1987 penny without a mint mark is not automatically rare. In fact, hundreds of millions were produced. But that doesn't mean every example is common or worthless. As with many coins, condition is everything. Before we discuss value, let's examine the design. The front of the coin features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The word Liberty appears to the left of Lincoln's profile, while the date 1987 is positioned to the right. Above Lincoln's head is the famous motto, "In God We Trust." The reverse side displays the Lincoln Memorial, a design that appeared on pennies from 1959 until 2008. If you look carefully, Lincoln can actually be seen seated inside the memorial. This makes the Lincoln cent unique because it shows the same person on both sides of the coin. Many people never notice that tiny detail, even after years of handling pennies. The composition of the 1987 penny is also interesting. Prior to 1982, most Lincoln cents were made primarily of copper. Rising metal prices eventually made that too expensive. As a result, pennies were changed to a zinc core with a thin copper coating. The 1987 penny follows this newer composition. It contains mostly zinc with a small layer of copper on the outside. This means a 1987 penny weighs approximately 2.5 grams. Knowing the correct weight can help collectors verify authenticity and identify unusual pieces. Now here's where things start getting exciting. If hundreds of millions of these pennies were produced, why do collectors care about them? The answer comes down to preservation, rarity within condition grades, and mint errors. Think about it this way. Millions of classic baseball cards were printed, but only a tiny percentage survived in perfect condition. Coins work the same way. Most 1987 pennies entered circulation immediately. They were dropped on sidewalks, carried in pockets, stored in jars, and passed from person to person for years. As a result, truly flawless examples are surprisingly difficult to find. Collectors especially seek coins that show strong original luster, sharp details, and little or no wear. A typical circulated 1987 no-mint mark penny is usually worth only a few cents. However, the story changes dramatically when we look at high-grade examples. Professional grading services use strict standards to evaluate condition. A coin graded mint state 65 may look excellent to the average person, but a mint state 67 or higher can be extraordinarily difficult to locate. This scarcity in top condition drives prices upward. Some certified high-grade 1987 Philadelphia pennies have sold for impressive amounts because collectors competing for registry sets want the finest known examples available. Registry sets are collections of professionally graded coins where enthusiasts compete to build the highest quality sets possible. When only a small number of coins achieve the highest grades, demand can become intense. And then there are mint errors. Error coins often create the biggest excitement among collectors because each mistake tells a unique story from the minting process. Some 1987 pennies have been found with off-center strikes. This happens when the blank coin planchet is not properly aligned during production. Part of the design may be missing, creating a dramatic appearance. Others show die cracks, die chips, or doubled features resulting from worn or damaged equipment. Collectors also search for broad strikes, clipped planchets, and other unusual production mistakes. When legitimate errors are confirmed, values can rise significantly depending on the severity and visual appeal of the mistake. Let's talk about some real-world values. An ordinary circulated 1987 no-mint mark penny may only bring 1 cent to a few cents. A bright, uncirculated example can be worth more, especially if it retains original mint luster. Coins certified in high mint state grades often sell for tens or even hundreds of dollars. The finest known examples have achieved much stronger prices when sold through auctions and specialty marketplaces. Exceptional specimens graded at the very top of the scale can command hundreds or even thousands of dollars because so few survive in that condition. Error coins add another layer of value. Depending on the type and size of the error, prices can range from modest premiums to several $100s or more. Particularly dramatic errors often attract aggressive bidding from collectors who appreciate unusual minting mistakes. This is why experienced coin hunters examine every penny carefully. Most won't be valuable, but all it takes is finding one exceptional coin to make the search worthwhile. So how can you tell whether your 1987 penny deserves a closer look? First, check the date carefully. Make sure it clearly reads 1987. Next, look below the date. If there is no mint mark, the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Then examine the overall condition. Does the coin still have its original shine? Are Lincoln's hair details sharp? Do the high points show little wear? Is the reverse design crisp and well-defined? The better the condition, the greater the potential value. After that, inspect the coin for unusual features. Look for doubling in the lettering. Check for off-center designs. Search for cracks, raised lines, or other odd characteristics. A magnifying glass can help reveal details that are difficult to see with the naked eye. Weighing the coin can also provide useful information. A standard 1987 cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or an unusual minting issue that deserves further investigation. One important warning: many people mistake damage for mint errors. Coins that have been squeezed, scratched, bent, or altered outside the mint often appear unusual but carry little collector value. True mint errors occur during production and have specific characteristics that experts recognize. If you believe you've discovered something special, professional authentication can help determine whether the coin is genuinely rare. Here's a fun fact many collectors enjoy sharing. The Lincoln Memorial reverse used on the 1987 penny remained in service for nearly 50 years. During that time, billions upon billions of pennies were produced. Yet even among such enormous numbers, collectors still find varieties, errors, and high-grade rarities that keep the hobby exciting. Another interesting detail is that people often search rolls of pennies from banks hoping to uncover hidden treasures. This activity, known as coin roll hunting, has become extremely popular among collectors. Imagine opening a roll worth just 50 cents and discovering a coin valued at hundreds of dollars. That's part of what makes coin collecting so appealing. Treasure can still be hiding in plain sight. The 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny also represents a snapshot of American history. Every example has traveled its own journey through stores, cash registers, piggy banks, and collections. Some may have crossed the country dozens of times. Others may have sat untouched in drawers for decades. Each coin has a story, even if we'll never know exactly where it has been. Collectors love this penny because it combines accessibility with possibility. Anyone can find one. You don't need to buy an expensive rarity. You don't need specialized equipment. You simply need curiosity and attention to detail. That combination turns an ordinary penny into an exciting treasure hunt. For experienced collectors, the challenge lies in locating pristine examples worthy of top grades. For beginners, the thrill comes from learning how to identify quality, spot errors, and understand what makes one coin more valuable than another. The 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny may not be the rarest coin ever produced, but it perfectly demonstrates an important lesson in coin collecting. Value isn't always determined by age alone. Condition matters, rarity matters, errors matter, and sometimes the most ordinary-looking coin can surprise everyone. So the next time you receive change from a store, don't ignore those pennies. Take a closer look at the dates. Examine the details. You never know what might be hiding among the coins in your pocket. Somewhere out there, a high-grade 1987 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny or a fascinating mint error could still be waiting to be discovered. And that's what makes coin collecting so exciting. The next great find isn't necessarily locked away in a museum or hidden inside a vault. It might be sitting in a coin jar, resting in a cash register, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer, waiting for someone curious enough to notice it. The question is simple. How many 1987 pennies have passed through your hands without a second glance? And more importantly, could the next one you find be worth far more than a single cent? What if I told you that a penny you could easily overlook in your pocket might be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars to the right collector? Most people walk past Lincoln pennies every day without giving them a second glance. But hidden among billions of ordinary coins is one that has sparked excitement among collectors for decades. It's the 1988 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Yet this small copper-colored coin has a story that surprises many people and has sent collectors searching through jars, piggy banks, and old coin collections hoping to find one. Today, we're taking a close look at the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, uncovering its history, unique features, collector interest, and why some examples can be worth far more than a single cent. To understand this coin, we first need to travel back to 1988. The United States was nearing the end of the 1980s. Personal computers were becoming more common, popular culture was changing rapidly, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins to keep up with the nation's growing economy. The Lincoln cent had already been part of American life for nearly 80 years. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it became the first regularly circulating U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. Before Lincoln appeared on American coinage, symbolic figures such as Lady Liberty were commonly used. By 1988, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner was still featured on the front of the penny. On the back was the Lincoln Memorial design, which had been introduced in 1959. Millions of Americans handled these coins every day without realizing that certain years and varieties would later become highly collectible. The 1988 no-mint mark penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At that time, Philadelphia-produced pennies generally did not carry a mint mark. This often surprises new collectors because many people assume a missing mint mark automatically means an error. In the case of most 1988 pennies, no mint mark is exactly what should be there. So why are collectors interested in this coin? The answer lies in certain rare varieties and unusual details that can transform an ordinary penny into a valuable collectible. Let's begin with the coin's composition. The 1988 Lincoln cent was made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition had been introduced several years earlier in 1982 when rising copper prices made the older bronze pennies more expensive to produce. A standard 1988 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. It has a diameter of 19 millimeters and features Abraham Lincoln facing right on the obverse, or front side. Above Lincoln's portrait is the phrase, "In God We Trust." To the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the date 1988. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial occupies the center of the design. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. This makes the Lincoln cent one of the few coins in the world to feature the same person on both sides. Now here's where things become interesting. Most 1988 no-mint mark pennies are worth only a few cents in circulated condition. However, collectors discovered a fascinating variety, known as the 1988 and 1988D reverse of 1989 variety. This variety was created when a die intended for the following year's design was accidentally used to strike some 1988 cents. At first glance, the difference seems tiny, but experienced collectors immediately notice changes in the lettering and details on the reverse side. The shape of certain letters, especially the G in United States of America, differs from the normal 1988 design. This accidental mix of design elements created one of the most talked about Lincoln cent varieties of the late 20th century. Because relatively few examples were produced, collectors began searching through rolls of pennies hoping to find one. Some lucky individuals discovered valuable examples sitting unnoticed in ordinary change. Imagine receiving a penny during a routine purchase and later learning it was worth hundreds of dollars. That's exactly the kind of treasure-hunting excitement that keeps coin collecting alive. Another reason some 1988 no-mint mark pennies command premium prices is condition. While billions were produced, very few survived in perfect mint state condition. Most entered circulation immediately and spent years being exchanged, dropped, scratched, and worn down. Coins that remain bright, sharply struck, and free from damage are much harder to find than many people realize. Professional grading services evaluate coins using a numerical scale. High-grade examples with exceptional preservation often attract strong competition among collectors. In some cases, ordinary-looking 1988 pennies graded at the highest levels have sold for hundreds of dollars because of their remarkable condition. Then there are error coins. Mint errors occur when something goes wrong during production. These can include off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, die cracks, and other unusual mistakes. A 1988 no-mint mark penny featuring a dramatic mint error may be worth significantly more than a standard example. Collectors love errors because each one tells a unique story about what happened during the minting process. Unlike regular coins produced by the billions, many errors are one of a kind or exist in extremely small numbers. Over the years, some notable 1988 penny varieties and high-grade examples have achieved impressive auction results. Exceptional uncirculated specimens certified by professional grading companies have sold for hundreds of dollars. Rare varieties such as the reverse of 1989 type can bring even higher prices depending on condition and market demand. It's important to remember that not every 1988 penny is valuable. Many online articles and social media posts create the impression that every old penny is worth a fortune. The reality is that value depends on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Still, the possibility of discovering a valuable variety keeps people searching. So how can you identify a genuine collectible 1988 no-mint mark penny? First, examine the date carefully. Make sure it clearly reads 1988 and has not been altered. Next, verify that there is no mint mark beneath the date. For Philadelphia issues, this is normal. Then inspect the reverse design. If you're searching for the famous reverse of 1989 variety, compare the lettering with reference images from trusted coin resources. Pay close attention to the shape and spacing of the letters. Using a magnifying glass or coin loop can make a huge difference. Many important details are difficult to see with the naked eye. Weight is another clue. A genuine 1988 cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Significant differences may indicate damage, alteration, or a counterfeit. If you believe you've discovered a rare variety or valuable error, consider having the coin examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. Counterfeits do exist, especially for coins that can command high premiums. Some individuals attempt to alter dates or create fake errors to deceive collectors. Fortunately, experienced numismatists know exactly what to look for and can often identify suspicious coins quickly. One fascinating fact about Lincoln cents is their unmatched popularity among collectors. For generations, people have saved them in jars, albums, and collections. Because pennies are affordable and easy to find, they often serve as a gateway into the hobby. Many lifelong collectors started with nothing more than a handful of Lincoln cents found in circulation. Another surprising detail is the sheer number of 1988 pennies produced. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 6 billion cents that year. That's enough coins to give dozens of pennies to every person living in the United States at the time. Yet, despite those massive numbers, certain varieties remain surprisingly elusive. This highlights one of the most exciting truths in coin collecting. Rarity isn't always about low mintage. Sometimes a rare variety can emerge from a year with enormous production numbers. Collectors love the challenge of finding these hidden treasures because they combine history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny perfectly represents that idea. Most examples are common. Most are worth only a few cents. Yet hidden among billions of ordinary coins are pieces that can attract serious attention from collectors. That's why people continue searching through old coin jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes in attics. Every penny tells a story. Some traveled across the country through countless transactions. Others sat untouched in drawers for decades. A lucky few emerged as rare varieties that transformed from ordinary pocket change into prized collectibles. For collectors, the excitement isn't just about money. It's about the hunt. It's about holding a small piece of American history and wondering where it has been and whose hands it has passed through. The next time you receive a penny in change, take a closer look before tossing it aside. You might spot a date that catches your attention. You might discover an unusual detail. You might even uncover a hidden variety that others have overlooked for years. And that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. The greatest treasures are not always made of gold or silver. Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight, disguised as the smallest coin in your pocket. So the next time you see a 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, remember that there may be much more to that little coin than meets the eye. Because somewhere out there, tucked away in a forgotten jar or resting quietly in someone's change drawer, another rare penny may still be waiting to be discovered. What if I told you that a simple penny sitting in an old jar, tucked away in a drawer, or hiding in your pocket change could be worth far more than 1 cent? Most people would never give a second thought to a 1991 Lincoln penny. After all, millions were made. But what if one small detail could turn an ordinary coin into something collectors desperately want? Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story behind the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that many people overlook but that continues to attract attention from collectors across the country. Before you spend your next penny, you may want to take a much closer look. The 1991 Lincoln penny was produced during a time when cash transactions ruled everyday life. Long before digital payments became common, pennies moved through countless hands every single day. The United States Mint produced enormous numbers of Lincoln cents to keep up with demand. In 1991, billions of pennies were struck, making it one of the most common coins of its era. The Lincoln cent itself has a long and remarkable history. It first appeared in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This was a groundbreaking moment in American coinage because Lincoln became the first real person ever featured on a regularly circulating United States coin. Prior to that, American coins typically displayed symbolic images rather than actual historical figures. By 1991, the Lincoln cent had already been part of American life for more than 80 years. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front remained largely unchanged, while the reverse featured the iconic Lincoln Memorial design that had been introduced in 1959. Millions of Americans carried these coins every day without realizing they were holding a small piece of history. Now let's talk about the phrase that causes so much confusion among collectors and beginners alike: no mint mark. When people hear the words no mint mark, they often assume something is missing or that the coin contains a rare error. In many cases, that's not true. For the 1991 Lincoln penny, a missing mint mark is usually completely normal. Here's why. During 1991, pennies were struck at multiple mint facilities. Coins produced at the Philadelphia Mint generally carried no mint mark at all. Coins struck in Denver displayed a small D mint mark beneath the date. Coins made in San Francisco were usually proof coins and carried an S mint mark. That means if you find a 1991 penny with no mint mark, it was most likely made at the Philadelphia Mint. In fact, more than 4 billion Lincoln cents were struck there that year. So simply finding a 1991 penny without a mint mark does not automatically make it rare. But here's where things get interesting. Even though ordinary examples are common, certain 1991 no-mint mark pennies have become valuable because of their condition, unusual striking characteristics, and occasional mint errors. This is where collectors begin paying attention. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. The 1991 Lincoln cent is composed primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. To the naked eye, it appears similar to most modern pennies. On the obverse or front side, you'll find Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his portrait appears the word Liberty, while the national motto "In God We Trust" stretches across the top. The date 1991 appears to the right of Lincoln's profile. The reverse showcases the Lincoln Memorial. If you look closely, you can actually see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. This remarkable design feature made the Lincoln Memorial cent unique because Lincoln appeared on both sides of the coin. Most people never notice that detail, even after handling thousands of pennies. Now let's discuss the factors that can make a 1991 no-mint mark penny worth more than face value. The first factor is condition. Because pennies circulate heavily, most become scratched, worn, discolored, or damaged over time. Coins that somehow escape circulation and remain in pristine condition become much more desirable. Professional grading services assign numerical grades based on a coin's condition. The highest grades represent coins that appear almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. For common coins like the 1991 penny, condition can make a dramatic difference in value. A heavily circulated example may only be worth 1 cent. A bright, uncirculated example might be worth a few dollars. A superb gem quality specimen could be worth significantly more, especially if it receives a very high certified grade. This is one of the most surprising aspects of coin collecting. 2 pennies made in the same year at the same mint can have values separated by hundreds or even thousands of dollars simply because one survived in exceptional condition. The second factor is mint errors. Mint errors occur when something unusual happens during the production process. Collectors love these mistakes because they create coins that are different from the billions of normal examples. Some of the errors that have been found on 1991 Lincoln cents include off-center strikes, doubled features, die cracks, clipped planchets, and other striking abnormalities. An off-center strike happens when the blank coin is not properly positioned during striking. Part of the design may be missing, creating a dramatic appearance that collectors find fascinating. A double die variety can show noticeable doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements. These varieties often require magnification to identify, but some are visible with the naked eye. Die cracks occur when the metal die used to strike coins develops fractures. These cracks can leave raised lines on the finished coin, creating unusual patterns. Because mint errors are relatively uncommon, they often command premiums in the collector market. Now let's look at some real-world value examples. Ordinary circulated 1991 no-mint mark pennies generally remain worth only face value or perhaps a few cents. Uncirculated examples can sell for several dollars depending on their quality. Certified high-grade specimens have sold for much more. Some examples graded near the top of the population have achieved prices ranging from dozens of dollars to several $100s when sold through auctions and collector markets. Error coins can be even more impressive. Depending on the type and severity of the error, values can range from tens of dollars to hundreds or occasionally more. Collectors are often willing to pay strong premiums for visually dramatic mistakes that are authenticated by reputable grading services. This is why experienced coin hunters examine every penny carefully. They understand that value often comes from details that most people never notice. So how can you identify a genuine 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny and avoid being fooled? First, examine the date carefully. Make sure it clearly reads 1991. Next, look beneath the date. A genuine Philadelphia issue should have no mint mark in that area. Check the coin's color and overall appearance. Genuine examples should match the characteristics of other Lincoln cents from the same period. Pay attention to the weight if you're evaluating a potentially valuable coin. A standard 1991 Lincoln cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Use a magnifying glass to inspect for unusual doubling, die cracks, or other possible mint errors. If you believe you've discovered a rare variety or a valuable error, consider submitting the coin to a professional grading service. Authentication can provide confidence for both collectors and buyers. One common mistake among beginners is assuming that every coin without a mint mark is rare. Unfortunately, scammers sometimes take advantage of this misunderstanding. Always remember that Philadelphia-produced 1991 pennies were intentionally made without mint marks. The real value comes from exceptional condition, rare errors, or unusual varieties. Now for some fascinating facts that many people don't know. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse remained in use for 50 years, from 1959 until 2008. That makes it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Another interesting fact is that billions of 1991 pennies are still believed to exist. Despite that enormous number, finding one in pristine condition becomes increasingly difficult with each passing year as coins are lost, damaged, or worn down through circulation. Many collectors also enjoy searching through bank rolls of pennies specifically looking for overlooked treasures. It's not unusual for dedicated coin hunters to examine thousands of cents, hoping to find a valuable error or a high-grade survivor. There is also something uniquely satisfying about searching for Lincoln cents because they remain affordable and accessible. Unlike rare gold coins or expensive silver dollars, nearly everyone can participate in the hunt. That's one reason the 1991 no-mint mark penny continues to attract attention today. Collectors appreciate it not because every example is valuable, but because it represents the possibility of discovery. Hidden among billions of ordinary coins could be an exceptional specimen waiting to be found. Every collector remembers the excitement of spotting something unusual for the first time. Maybe it's a doubled letter. Maybe it's an off-center strike. Maybe it's a nearly perfect uncirculated coin that somehow survived untouched for decades. Those moments keep collectors searching. The next time you receive change from a store, dump out an old coin jar, or open a forgotten piggy bank, take a moment to inspect the pennies. You might find a 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln cent. Most will be ordinary, but one could have the condition, variety, or error that makes collectors take notice. And that's what makes coin collecting so exciting. Treasure doesn't always come in the form of gold bars or buried chests. Sometimes it's a simple penny hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look closer. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny may seem ordinary at first glance, but its story reminds us that even the most common objects can hold surprising secrets. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just beginning the journey, every coin has a story, and every search carries the possibility of an unexpected discovery. So before you spend your next penny, Take a second look. The coin in your hand may be worth much more than you ever imagined, and the next great coin discovery could be sitting quietly in your pocket right now. What if I told you that a penny most people would toss into a jar, drop into a tip cup, or ignore at the bottom of a drawer could actually be worth far more than 1 cent? It sounds unbelievable, but for some collectors, the 1993 D Lincoln penny has become a fascinating treasure hunt. Millions were made, yet certain examples have sold for surprising amounts of money. The question is, could one be hiding in your pocket change right now? The 1993 D Lincoln penny is one of those coins that proves you do not need a century-old rarity to capture the attention of collectors. Sometimes a coin only a few decades old can become highly desirable because of its condition, unusual errors, and the stories surrounding its production. To understand why this coin matters, we need to travel back to 1993. The United States was experiencing a period of economic growth. Personal computers were becoming more common in homes, the internet was still in its early stages, and Americans were carrying cash every day for small purchases. Pennies were constantly changing hands, and the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of them. The Denver Mint struck more than 6 billion Lincoln cents in 1993. Every one of those coins carried the small D Mint mark beneath the date, identifying Denver as the place where it was made. At first glance, that huge production number might make the coin seem ordinary. After all, how can something produced by the billions ever become valuable? That is where the story gets interesting. The Lincoln cent itself already had a remarkable history by 1993. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first regularly circulating American coin to feature a real historical figure. Before Lincoln appeared on the cent, American coins typically displayed symbolic images such as Lady Liberty. The front of the 1993 D penny features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. Lincoln faces right with the words "In God We Trust" above his head. The word Liberty appears on the left side, while the date and the D Mint mark sit on the right. On the reverse side, collectors find the classic Lincoln Memorial design. Introduced in 1959, this design shows the famous memorial in Washington, D.C. If you look closely enough under magnification, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. It is one of the smallest detailed portraits ever placed on a circulating American coin. The coin may look simple, but its composition tells an important story. Earlier Lincoln cents were mostly copper. However, by 1993, pennies were made from a zinc core covered with a thin layer of copper. This change had been introduced in the early 1980s because the value of copper was rising and making the old pennies more expensive to produce. As a result, a standard 1993 D penny weighs about 2.5 grams and has a bright copper-colored appearance when new. Most examples found today show wear, scratches, and discoloration from years of circulation. But condition changes everything. Imagine two identical 1993 D pennies. One spent decades passing through cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks. The other was carefully preserved from the moment it left the mint. Although both coins began life the same way, their values today can be dramatically different. Collectors place tremendous importance on a coin's condition. A worn 1993 D penny may be worth only a few cents. However, a coin with flawless surfaces, strong luster, and virtually no marks can command much higher prices. This is especially true because high-grade examples are surprisingly difficult to find. Even though billions were produced, many entered circulation immediately and accumulated damage. Finding one that still looks almost exactly as it did on the day it was struck can be challenging. Professional grading services evaluate coins on a numerical scale. The highest grades are reserved for coins with exceptional preservation. Some 1993 D pennies graded at the top levels have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars because so few examples exist in such remarkable condition. Another reason collectors pay attention to this coin involves mint errors. Every coin is produced by machinery, and sometimes those machines make mistakes. When they do, unusual coins can emerge. Error coins often attract intense interest because each mistake creates something different from the normal production run. Some 1993 D pennies have been discovered with off-center strikes. This happens when the blank coin is not properly positioned during striking. The result is a design that appears shifted to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Other examples show die cracks, where a damaged die leaves raised lines on the finished coin. There are also coins with doubled features, repunch details, and striking abnormalities that make them stand out from ordinary pieces. One of the most exciting discoveries for collectors is finding a dramatic error in circulation. Imagine receiving change from a store and noticing that one penny looks unusual. A closer examination reveals a striking mistake made at the mint decades ago. Suddenly, that ordinary cent becomes a conversation piece and potentially a valuable collectible. Now let's talk about value. Most circulated 1993 D pennies remain common. If heavily worn, they are generally worth only a few cents. However, coins in brilliant uncirculated condition can sell for significantly more. Collectors often pay premiums for examples with strong red color. In the coin collecting world, original red surfaces are highly desirable because they indicate the coin has retained much of its fresh mint appearance. Over the years, certified high-grade examples have achieved impressive auction results. Some top-quality specimens have sold for several $100s. A few elite examples, graded among the finest known, have crossed the $1,000 mark when offered to competitive collectors. That may sound shocking for a coin originally worth just 1 cent. Imagine finding a penny worth enough to pay for a weekend getaway, a new laptop, or a significant addition to a collection. That possibility keeps collectors searching through rolls of coins and old family jars. Of course, not every shiny penny is valuable. Knowing how to identify a genuine 1993 D Lincoln cent is important. Start by examining the date. It should clearly read 1993. Beneath the date, you should see a small D mint mark. The lettering should appear sharp and consistent with official mint production. Next, check the weight if you have a precise scale. A standard 1993 D cent should weigh approximately 2.5 grams. Major differences could indicate damage, alteration, or another issue. Pay close attention to the coin's surfaces. Some altered coins are cleaned, polished, or artificially colored to appear more valuable. Experienced collectors generally prefer original surfaces because cleaning can reduce value. If you believe you have an exceptional example or a significant error coin, professional authentication may be worthwhile. A reputable grading service can verify authenticity and assign an official grade. One surprising fact about the 1993 D penny is how often valuable coins remain unnoticed. Many people assume old coins are the only ones worth checking. As a result, modern coins frequently escape attention. Yet some of the most exciting discoveries in recent decades have involved coins produced within living memory. Another fun detail concerns the Lincoln Memorial reverse. For generations, Americans carried a coin that featured Lincoln on both sides. His portrait appears on the front, while a tiny representation of him sitting inside the memorial appears on the back. Many people spent years handling these coins without ever noticing that hidden detail. The 1993 D penny also serves as a reminder that rarity is not always about low production numbers. Sometimes rarity comes from survival. Billions may have been minted, but only a tiny fraction remain in pristine condition. That distinction creates demand among collectors seeking the very best examples. Coin collecting itself adds another layer of fascination. Every coin carries a journey. A 1993 D penny might have traveled through dozens of states, passed through thousands of hands, and witnessed countless everyday transactions. Each scratch and mark tells part of that story. Collectors love the challenge of finding exceptional pieces among ordinary ones. There is something exciting about searching through rolls of pennies and knowing that the next coin could be a hidden gem. The possibility may be small, but it is real. That excitement is one reason the 1993 D Lincoln cent continues to attract attention today. It combines accessibility, history, affordability, and the chance for valuable discoveries. Beginners can easily start searching for them, while advanced collectors pursue the highest grade examples and unusual errors. In many ways, this coin represents the heart of modern coin collecting. It reminds us that treasures are not always locked away in museums or buried underground. Sometimes they are sitting quietly in a change jar, waiting for someone curious enough to take a closer look. So the next time you receive a handful of pennies, do not dismiss them as pocket change. Look carefully at the dates. Search for that tiny D mint mark. Examine the color, the condition, and any unusual features. You may not find a fortune, but you might discover a piece of American history hiding in plain sight. And who knows? The next 1993 D Lincoln penny you encounter could be one of those remarkable examples that turns a single cent into a collector's prize. That possibility is exactly what keeps treasure hunters searching, collectors collecting, and ordinary pennies becoming extraordinary stories.